on Twitter and Instagram. An isekai that thinks it's more than just another isekai, and for that reason is much worse than it could be. It suffers a lot from, also known as, I don't wanna develop anything. A protagonist from our world, but only the opening shows that, with a profession that's not useful in battles, despite its usefulness being pretty obvious, and then he loses an arm and only survives by luck. If this had been shown as more accidental, for instance if he were competent before, okay. No, he's incapable, despite not being, didn't train how to use his powers in battle, even though he does that in an instant, and it's better than a spell created for that and shown as really powerful, and still they have to throw in that someone screwed him over. This is so lazy. It almost makes me think they are going to subvert this, but right after, he already hates everyone. They want him to be an anti-hero so bad, but he's just selfish and emo. It wouldn't surprise me for a second if someone told me he's going to attack his love interest to see that he became a villain and magically turn into a hero. And the story being poorly thought out like this isn't enough. The execution is to die for. How can you make an animal eating the main character's arm look hilarious? How can anyone terrified simply skip to everyone hates me and I hate them too? Why present this supposed betrayal now? And on top of that, revealing who it was to the audience? It's pretty obvious. You have to be pretty lazy to say, you have to figure out who this is, and present the person and their face. They had to draw this. If it were a smile on a dark background, there'd be no way of knowing. But they went through the trouble of ruining everything. And when he finally uses his powers as he should, after they show a skull and imply it taught combat skills, it's all pretty basic. He makes a trap way simpler than the one used against the big monster made of bad CGI. He gets the power of being quick, but just stands there after using it. Him creating the gun is somewhat interesting, even if they stop to give useless status and such, but not even that is done right. He has to have paper for the weapon plans, because writing on the floor or the wall would be too basic. They literally have to make the big enemy's death be a bullet slowly going into its head, but no blood. That'd be too graphic. Not that this stops them from showing a character boobs first, another from being introduced as first, and the opening from literally closing into a bunny girl's panties. If you're going to do fan service, do fan service. Nobody cares. No, she's wearing a nightgown because that's what people do. At least the music at the climax isn't bad. But I have to point out the satanic bunny uses flash kick, but it's the Wolverine bear that uses sonic boom. Would the two be related to Gaio's chicken? And how do you waste a satanic bunny like that? He'd be a much more interesting enemy than the bear. But no, we have to pretend bigger is stronger, otherwise it's not basic enough. And we don't want to have to animate him or make him think of smarter traps. This is just inept. If Arifureta is lazy in the story and production, this is lazy in even thinking about being standard. The main character is the creator of a gang and falls into it. No mom, so no fun. The guy has power enough to slay a high demon, but is limited by some skill points? They imply they are for spawning items, but that's not at all what a skill point is. Why would it take points for an administrator to spawn items anyways? The second he gets into that control, it looks like it's going to be limited, which would be just a more meta version of the same, but no, he has all access. He needs the point because they want to pretend there'd be some difficulty to overcome here. And in an even more meta way, the limitation on the limitation is due to the lack of skill of the creators. On top of that, he has a sidekick, Ram's unknown triplet who's a blonde, and has a tragic backstory that is so tragic, the main guy doesn't understand what her being a sacrifice means. And then the episode ends on him saving her from her neighbors, because having destroyed a high demon, that's a difficult thing to do? Mind you, that's not all. We have a creature turning to dust badly, a ring that says he's evil because he created the game, game, and the solution is him saving her from rocks and burning down one of the houses, if not the whole village? Besides that, it's all laziness. There's a moment that kind of worked with him looking at his form and there's a leaf on his forehead, then there's a dowsing reference, which is okay, and a bit about her using old Japanese. Other than that, everything is lazy as hell. It kinda makes me think these moments got attention and the rest was just filled around them. This is their idea of a man running. The eyes go all over the place every other moment. The only reason this is not higher on the list is because this looks like inaptitude, more than willful laziness. Here's something different. This is not just a bad episode that happens to be the first one, this is actually a bad introduction. We have the usual nice enough designs, though I'd say they're a bit too generic in this first episode, yet iffy execution. First of all, because they clearly want you to think ecchi stuff. Just look at this closing theme. And in the episode itself, we have to have the striped bra and the big boobs bouncing for no reason. And second, watching again, some angles just fail. Look at this. In this one, the girl that seems to be in a more realistic style would need to have the more cartoony Digimon style ass for this to even be possible, and that would still be a stretch. As a story, it's clearly stretched too. The whole thing is based on a few seconds presenting the premise of people losing their memories, mostly of hobbies so they can fanservice otaku more, a few seconds of, hey, we actually have powers and this is going to have some action, and the rest of the episode is them searching for a manga. Premise-wise, this could be okay if it turned into something in the episode, but it had been almost 20 minutes when it did, and it's very much like the ending of Tateno Yushu's first episode. No, I continue to say that's a bad first episode. You could take a look at my Could It Get Any Worse to see all the details, because it's not on this list. Also, they make sure to set an energetic one with the I found it! But it's not what we're looking for joke, but just once. So when she finds the manga, it's not funny. I feel silly having to say this, but the rule of 3 exists for a reason. You need to set a pattern before you can break it. I did smirk at the I'm actually Russian this time. Also, is this line a dick joke? Because she is into yaoi, but considering she's cooking those mushrooms, that rabbit might go in the pot any moment now. It's all done so lazily. We have so much of this is important thrown at us, and yet it feels so empty. They all talk about this matter of fact like, as in this is nothing special, but also want us to think it's super important. I'm sorry, but if you're going to eat your cake, you can't have it as cake. It turns to shit. That's a fact. So, in my original reaction, I did say from the intro it seemed like this could actually be a way better show than what it seemed from this episode. So I watched the second episode to make sure, and I have to say, it's actually better. I actually laughed. The visuals suffered quite a bit, but the story moved forward, even if it was still a little stretched. Like, the people hunting the viruses find them, but one of them falls into water, so they can't fight. She has to dry up first. But it did seem a bit more self-aware and enjoying the cheese it was putting forth. It's still a bit of a weak fight when it happens, but it was better. Also, they seem to learn from the manga they go into, which is a way better message about hobbies than what we got in the first episode. Maybe I'll still do a Could It Get Any Worse about it. If you'd like to see it, leave it on the comments. Something that happens more and more in media are products made for a specific audience, but that don't understand said audience to the point of depicting people in it in a clearly offensive way. It's something that's discussed quite a bit in literature. An author's concept ends up in their work without him noticing. But with the big push for validating otakus, humor anime seem to recently have forgotten the difference between the stereotype and the people. For instance, an idea that can be quite confusing, especially for people in the West, is that people might have particularly vivid emotions when living well. It's a discussion about the value of the routine and a philosophical teaching about the maintenance of one's own life. That's not what happens here. Here, the main character has a funny, squirmy feeling when she sees a girl that might be 10 years old. If you're being generous. This is represented as sexual, and I don't mean that other issue about showing something almost sexually for impact and relevance. That can be a form of shorthand and might be abused or not. No, here, she literally feels embarrassed because she has feelings for a little girl, bribes her with candy, makes her wear cosplay, and takes pictures from the floor. That girl literally talks about calling the police multiple times, so I can't pretend this anime is just making a joke. No, later, when the girl decides she wants the candy and she's going to submit herself to it, they try to make a joke about her eating too much or exercising too much. That is a joke. When the mom gets home and sees the situation, she treats her older daughter as if she had committed a crime or tried to do so. And that's supposed to be a joke. This anime has a beautiful style, a beautiful execution, but the story is disgusting to the point of making me feel I was going to throw up when I rewatched this episode for this list. It's not like Sarazanmai, which has such an absurd story that people complained about it getting such good animation. And no, them stopping and saying, if it were a stranger, this would be weird, cannot be a joke, and also justify she's not a pedophile at the same time. And if anyone wants to say something about social anxiety or the like, I have to point out that these jokes could only work as jokes because the anime treats what she's doing as wrong. You can't point out she's doing what a pedophile would do and then say she isn't one when she has a funny, squirmy feeling. Cartoony but critical. We'll be back. Some anime are bad because they lack effort. Some anime are bad due to laziness. Yes, I had to make that joke one more time. Combines the two in a unique way. This is a sequel to another anime I never saw, but Mother's Basement made a video that suggests this one might be better technically speaking, which is terrifying when you realize this anime is here basically just because of technical problems. Of course, we do have things we can laugh at, like this guy with a lot of junk in the trunk, this guy's pants, that he gets purple when he blushes, and the girl wearing such a short skirt at times that you might think it's one of those H's where women always show their panties. And it doesn't look like the old, I want to make you think it's going to be an ecchi, but it's never going to. She literally changes height in a second. So it really looks like it's just incompetence. And that knife still looks gigantic. It looks like she's going to work on the Japanese fish market. Maybe together with the seedy sword guy? No, the ecchi elements are limited to a little yaoi baiting, yuri baiting, and breasting, which creates one of the biggest problems in this anime. The story is so standard, but without any of the guts to do what it wants to do. It takes centuries for something to happen. I was looking at the clock all the time, and it's not like what happens is fun, because it's all standard, so not to be controversial. I said it and I'll say it again. This wants to be Mirai Nikki, but it doesn't want anybody to die. And the worst part is that it's all, as I said it, for being lazy and lack of effort. You don't need to be a genius to know a short song can't be used every instant of an episode, but you do need to put in some effort if you want to have a second one or a third one, or to use the song in a way it will be effective and not get boring. I liked the song, but I got tired of it. The story has a gimmick where people need to hold hands to use their powers, but what would be interesting, the combat as a pair without letting go of each other's hands, is just thrown out. It's just a battery they have to recharge. I liked the designs, but then they move weird or wear masks that float ridiculously above their faces. I think this is the best example. What's happening here is that someone decided the mask would be a totally different layer from the people wearing them. They place characters in certain angles so they don't have to draw masks more than once or move the models more than needed, which is smart. But then, it looks like no one saw how it looked. It's not just that the masks clash with the characters. Even the first time he wore the black mask, there's some weirdness. But no, they move slightly after the character. This makes sense in a logical way thinking of the physics, but no one really sees this difference in movement. People train to draw clothes and hair moving a certain way, but no one would make sure to move every single hair on a short haircut because it'd be weird. In other words, they are basically ignoring the New York method. One of the most basic principles of animation. I honestly had to think about what's worse, and while Tenshigami Yorita has worse ideas, I only placed it in second because, worst case scenario, they're trying. They fail miserably, but they are trying. Wiz seems to only be making an effort in what relates to not making an effort, on how to make animation the most mechanical possible so the process is easier in execution, no matter the result. That's it. Now I'm going to focus on the reviews for this year. Okay, just one more. With. I'm sorry, but if you're going to eat your cake, you can't have it as cake. It turns to shit. It's a fact. But have some dishonorable. But here are some dishonorable mentions. It's pretty good, I think. Sound. Okay. Let's start the year.